Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today we're going to be talking to you about Galatea. Again, she's going to be having a banner coming out here soon on NA for the Akihabara explosion event. She's going to be the center, sort of focus of the event in terms of its story. So I really want to at least give you guys an analysis on her so that you guys can get a fair shake as to how she performs. And again, a lot of people are going to compare Galatea to particularly Vlad Berserker, and then you're even going to see some people now comparing her to Kriemhild, who has come out after the fact as a 4-star down the line. Again, they're all single target arts berserkers. They're all pretty useful. I'm going to talk about what I really think Galatea excels at, as well as the issue I have with Galatea. But again, it's not so much of an issue that you can't overcome it. So let's go ahead and begin. Just looking at Galatea's kit here again. Like I said, 5-star single target arts berserker. She's got 11k attack. Now, this is again not the greatest, but given the fact that she is a berserker, she's always going to be effective pretty much. So this is a great thing. So I don't have any real issue with her overall attack power, especially because she has plenty of steroids in order to help her pump damage. I think the main concern that a lot of people have is going to be her damage output in relation to Vlad, but now the real reason that that has been an issue is because Vlad has been buffed so many times now to help him stay afloat. Vlad for a long period of time had a lot of issues with his overall NP scaling. That has finally been addressed. So Galatea is just basically one upgrade away from yet again outperforming Vlad in that regard. So don't worry too much about that. Still a plenty capable unit. Her HP values though are definitely pretty thick. Now again, because she is Berserker, there is going to be some concern over her ability to take a hit. Don't worry about that. We'll talk about it when we get to her kit. But again, I think you'll find Galatea is actually pretty decently tanky as far as berserkers go. And then you guys can see here, she is earth attributed. Again, she's got a very low star absorption, just like all berserkers do. She's got pretty low star generation as well. She does have a 0.6 NP gain rate. That's not that great. It's not bad though either, but I think you'll see she has stuff in her kit to allow her some ability to loop, but this is maybe going to be one of my focal points throughout this review. Now, as we look here at her NP charge defense, she actually gets a whole lot basically from getting hit. So that's a good thing for her. She's not 3% is typically your average number here. She's not even getting 4%. She's getting 5% every single hit that occurs on her. So that's pretty decent if you know that she's going to get hit. She is chaotic balanced for her alignment, and she is female. She doesn't have many traits here though. She's only humanoid, mechanical, servant, and weak to enemy elish. So not a whole lot of traits to exploit against her if you ever encounter her as an enemy. But again, definitely a nice thing in that regard, because that means that enemies against you won't have a lot of stuff that they could exploit either. So really good there. Looking at her deck here, this is going to be the primary thing that I'm going to bring up about Galatea. A lot has been said about comparing, like I said, Galatea to Kriemhild and Vlad. And in Vlad's case, Vlad has a much more balanced deck centered around arts cards. Galatea gets the standard Buster Gorilla deck, basically the triple Buster deck here. And it's fine. It's going to allow her to pump a lot of damage, and this concern does get addressed by the devs, so we'll talk about it more in a minute. But as you guys can see here, she's got standard hit counts on all of her cards. She does have, though, the singular quick card that is a 5-hit quick card, so that is pretty nice in that regard, and it's definitely going to help sort of offset a little bit that star generation issue that she has. Then as we look here at the kit here, her first skill here is going to be an increase to her own arts and buster performance of 30% each for 3 turns, and then an increase to her buff removal resistance one time for 3 turns of up to 100%. So you are going to probably want to invest heavily in this skill, because not only is it her steroid for her NP, it's a steroid for 4 of her 5 cards, and it is also going to help keep her alive. To top that off, you also get 20% charge right here just to help that refund or help her get to her NP to begin with. But this part of the skill is flat, so you don't have to level it to be able to take advantage of it. So still a skill you're going to want to prioritize to some degree. Her second skill here, though, is going to be a self guts of 1 time 3 turns. Now again, 1 time 3 turns is actually a pretty normal guts. It's pretty much the lowest end of type of guts that we've seen. But the upside here is that it is stackable with other guts. This is a quality of life that we've basically seen since Kurt got his upgraded anniversary 4 years ago now. So now we're seeing her as well get stackable guts just as a release on her, rather than having to be upgraded in any way, shape, or form. And she does also get the ability to increase her own defense 2 times 3 turns here. Now, the guts again is only going to revive with 3000 HP, but what's really cool about this is this defense 2 times 3 turns is 100%. So unless the enemy has steroids on themselves or some sort of, again, defensive pierce or buff strip, they're going to get nothing out of this. They're going to deal basically 0 damage. So it is what it is, right? It's a really, really nice thing that she has this. And this is one of the reasons why I said you're not going to have too much of a concern over her overall survivability. And especially considering this is a gut skill, it's only on a 6-turn cooldown. So that's not that bad. It's actually pretty decent in terms of being able to get back to it, especially if you're operating in some sort of like hybrid system with Tamamo and Castoria as your supports. You're going to have the party-wide protection, you're going to have healing, and you're going to have cooldown reductions in order to be able to get back to this. So I'd say that'd be a really, really good pairing with her in that regard. But again, this is definitely going to help her keep up. But I will talk a little bit about this, that I find it somewhat annoying that the guts duration is so low when you also have the defense on, because this may actually prevent your defense from getting popped if you're just leaving everything to RNG and the enemy carding against you. You might actually find that they just go up against hard on your actual defense and then don't actually get a hit in to actually pop your guts. And your guts just falls off unused basically as it expires, and then all of a sudden you're just vulnerable to being killed. So definitely make sure you plan when to pop this. Try to make sure you use it at the correct time so that you don't end up not being able to take advantage of that guts again, because that is always one of my concerns whenever we see guts paired with healing or other defensive capabilities. As we look to the third skill here, and again, this is the one that did get the upgrade. It's Aphrodite's Grace EX, and it's going to grant self-regeneration buff for 3 turns, which is it recovers the party's HP every turn for 3 turns by up to 2000. That's really strong. Again, it's a party-wide heal of 2000. So you're getting, again, sort of like 6,000 HP per turn, basically spread out across the party. Pretty nice in that regard. And then on top of that, it's also a party-wide debuff cleanse every turn for 3 turns. So this isn't just a one-time cleanse. Everybody in the party gets cleansed every turn for the next 3 turns unless this buff is removed. Really nice in that regard. This is just going to help keep things off the party. And I've seen people before say stuff like, hey, you know, maybe we don't have like that big of a need for this because we have Castoria in the party. Trust me when I say this, there are times that you're going to get debilitated in some way, shape, or form, and you don't want to have to use Castoria's NP yet because you're trying to hold it to keep the party alive for an upcoming boss NP. You're not going to have to worry about that as much when you have somebody that can literally just sit there and spam cleanse on your entire party, so that way you can use the Castoria NP when you want. So it's still a nice thing that she has this, even though Castoria does have it as well. But this skill gets upgraded around Interlude Campaign 18 this year. So again, she's going to be coming out here with the Akihabara event here, probably sort of mid to late March. And then already by December, chat, she should have Interlude Campaign 18, which gives her the upgrade to her 3rd skill. And what this is going to do is this is going to address one of the biggest concerns with her when she came out. And it's funny because I talked about this when I initially reviewed her on her release. A lot of people told me that I was overblowing this issue and that, like, yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal. And yet here we come, the devs actually addressed it. So the biggest issue comparing her again against someone like Vlad, like I said, was the fact that Vlad just had the arts cards to really be able to help him get back to his NP, even if he didn't have all his buffs up, even if he didn't have the best of circumstances. Galatea struggled in that regard, where even though she kind of had pretty decent NP gen, she had the triple buster deck. So it was hard to kind of ever tidy things up with a card with her because of that. And so that was one of the things I brought up, is that while yes, she will have great damage capability because of having triple buster, she won't necessarily have the best card refund or card NP generation in that regard. So they end up swooping back in here and adding an extra effect where they grant an on attack activate buff for 3 turns that will charge your own NP gauge when normal attacking with Buster cards. So again, it's pretty much going to give you 10% charge every single time you use a Buster card. So pretty similar to Dioscuri, pretty similar to like Muramasa and other units like that. So really, really nice in that regard, but it's only the Buster cards and it's 10%. Now, keep in mind, in this regard, yes, you probably, if you were stacking a lot of arts buffs on her, could get even more out of landing the arts card than just using a Buster card for a flat 10%. But still better than nothing, so this does help address that issue. Also keep in mind that you could, in some sort of weird sort of hybrid setup again, try to like combine in like maybe Koyanskaya or something like that with this and actually get even more charge out of the Buster card by using her buff. So there is some interesting ability to both card hard as her triple Buster deck and be able to generate charge with it here. So I do like this. It is a nice sort of ability that they've given her. It does address the issue. I'm not sure it's a perfect fix by any means, but it's definitely a welcome addition to her arsenal here. So again, then we get to her passive skills, and she's got Madness Enhancement EX, so really, really nice in that regard. So her Buster cards will perform very well since she does have the 3 of them. She gets Magic Resistance B for 17.5% debuff resistance. So again, that is what that is. It is going to make it a little bit better for even landing the debuff on her in the first place, even though she does have that debuff cleanse per turn here. So again, really nice in that regard. And then again, we start getting to her pen skills here. Now, you could throw Galatea out on an island. That could be a thing, but I think the longer cooldowns might be an issue for you in some points. So I'm not going to say you can't like solo with her or anything like that. Just you may have to play it very carefully in that regard. But so certainly the extra attack could help you in that regard, but also you might want to think about just, hey, it might be very likely that I'm just throwing her in there with 2 supports and that I want to take advantage of any sort of card chain that she gets. Doubly so when we get down the line and get mighty chains added to the game. Having this extra attack finesse can definitely be a good one, especially if you're going to be using that unit as your sole damage dealer in some way, shape, or form. Because again, this doesn't just improve NP gen and star generation, it also improves damage. But her second skill is probably going to be the one a lot of people will focus on, again, especially because she's got that flat 20% charge to begin with in her kit. So getting 20% extra charge just to start out with from the mana loading can be really nice. It can definitely help you out. Mana loading tends to be the like #1 recommendation for most units in the game as to what to go after first in terms of appends. And then we get to her third append here, which again with Berserkers is a little bit weird because we have the anti-crit damage resistance basically here. So it is a interesting thing to have. I'm not the biggest fan of this append, especially in terms of how limited servant coins are. I may change that stance if servant coins ever become like farmable in some way, shape, or form. But for right now, with how they are in the game, this is a pretty rough one to say like, hey, yeah, go spend your coins on this. If you really like her, you can, but to me, this is probably the weakest of the 3 appends because it is just so situational. So again, you would have to be going up against assassins, and the assassin would have to crit specifically Galatea for this to ever come into play. So yes, it could. It may bail you out in a circumstance that you run into, but again, to me, this is probably the least effective use of your servant coins for her. We get to her Noble Phantasm. It is a 9-hit single target Arts Noble Phantasm, and you're probably thinking like, whoa, holy cow, that's a lot, right? And it is. That is one of the good parts about her in that regard. So while her NP gain by itself is not the greatest, she does at least have a lot of hit counts on this NP to help her generate Noble Phantasm. She's going to deal damage to 1 enemy, and then she's going to also drain the enemy guaranteed by 1 charge on the gauge. This makes her a really, really solid, again, option as like someone that can loop against someone. We've talked about this time and time again with units like Squirtoria, where hey, yeah, this could be used to just sit there and loop against an enemy and just constantly deprive them of their NP. So it's a really, really valuable thing to have. Again, I do like it in that regard. And someone in chat actually asked me before I started recording this, which I would prefer in terms of like her or kriemhild. Would I rather have the drain or would I rather have the ability to buff remove? Buff remove is still a great thing, but drain is almost always going to be useful in a boss fight because it's just going to delay the boss from getting to their NP. And even if it is a long fight, you got to think about it in terms of it probably prevents more NPs over time, so it's thus pretty valuable because it's reducing the amount of potential like bad situations that you could get into. So being able to stop an enemy from getting to its NP is still a really valuable thing even to this day in FGO, and it probably always will be just due to the way the game functions. So really nice that she has this in that regard. Again, she doesn't have scuffed scaling like Vlad did to begin with, and that was one of the reasons that when she came out, a lot of people knee-jerk reacted and said Vlad's dead. Vlad wasn't dead, and even then Vlad got a buff pretty much right after her release here that just really helped kick Vlad off again. So really nice for him in that regard. But yeah, she doesn't start out with that same sort of issue, I would say. So again, like I said, all she is just one NP interlude away from all of a sudden she could be basically 1200 scaling here on her NP, which again, whenever you get an NP interlude standard amounts, your NP2 becomes your new NP1 amount, your NP5 amount becomes your new NP2 amount. So that's a good way to think about it if you guys are ever curious as to how those work. Granted, there can be some weird interludes like in Jack's case where you get like a half a strengthening and you don't actually get the full thing, but that is how they're supposed to work in most cases. She's also got an overcharge effect here that increases her own NP damage for 3 turns that activates first. So not only is this going to scale with someone like Oberon's ability to boost NP damage, but this is a 3-turn duration. So this is going to stack over time. You're going to want to loop with her. You're going to want to keep going, keep firing off that NP, because she is just going to get stronger and stronger with every single one up to 3 turns. So really nice in that regard that she has this. Again, there's any number of ways that you can use her. Like I talked about, there's plenty of art supports out there that are really valuable. I think the key that you got to be worried about, especially when we're dealing with a Berserker as our main damage dealer, is that it's a double-edged sword. So you got to make sure that you have some way of both keeping the Berserker safe as well as being able to recuperate from any damage that they might take. So healing, party-wide protection, those are really good pairings with her. And then certainly the ability that she has to charge herself as well as the ability to drain enemies can be valuable. So you might be able to fit her into hybrid DPS setups where there's another DPS alongside her and maybe you're rotating the supports through, or maybe you're just using her again in a solo. That certainly would be possible. And again, because of that, things like craft essences are just very malleable, especially for a lot of arts units. You start her out with 50% charge if you don't think she's got enough refund to be able to do it, but you may be able to get away with something like Black Grail just depending on the circumstances and whether or not you're going to rely on card RNG, which for our single target loopers, not that bad. You can actually pretty much have a good odds of getting their cards sometime in the first 2 turns of a 3-turn. Now, again, you do get back to the issue of, well, she does have the triple buster deck. So what if those cards that I get her buster? But again, as of December of this upcoming year here, you will have the ability to at least get charge off those buster cards. So that issue won't be that bad. So again, let me know what you guys think of Galatea. Let me know if you're going to roll in the Akihabara Explosion event, and I will see you guys for the next video. Have a good one.